guys, what's up? It's Rachel back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a tag that I have been seeing here a lot recently. This is the eyeshadow palette tag, so it's all about your eyeshadow palettes. I thought I would participate in this tag. I actually do a lot of tag videos here on my channel, and especially if you've been here for a while, then you know that I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, so I thought it'd be fun to do. I personally love to watch these tag videos. I feel like you get an insight of people's collections and kind of what they think on makeup, and I like to find people that have the same taste in makeup as me because we tend to like the same products, and it's good about recommendations. So if that person likes it, then I may probably like it if we have similar tastes. So I don't have any updates in this video, except if you hear the noise in the background, that is the air. I am burning up, so if you hear that, I apologize in advance. But other than that, I don't have any updates in this video, except if you guys are new here, welcome to my channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you'd like, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and you can also hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this tag. So the first question says, what is your newest eyeshadow palette? Mine is the Smoke Sessions palette from Melt Cosmetics. Now mine did come a little cracked, so I'm not going to hold it up, but they did smush back down very easily. It was this shade and this one right here. I did pick this up during the Sephora VIB sale. It took forever to get here, which a lot of people's orders did, but this is definitely my newest palette that I have purchased. When it comes to eyeshadows, so I haven't really got to play with this that much yet, so I don't really have a good opinion on it right now, just because I haven't really played with it that much. But I will say it was annoying that those come cracked. They were really easy to press down, but I don't know, a lot of people's come cracked, so that was an issue with this palette from the beginning. And this is an older palette. I wouldn't consider this to be a newer release. But yeah, this is definitely my newest palette that I have purchased. The next question says, show your oldest palette. Mine is probably the same as everyone else's. This is the Urban Decay Naked palette. Mine doesn't look like beat up or real rough looking like a lot of people's that I have seen, but this is definitely my very first palette. Actually, if I'm being honest, my first palettes was this, the Naked 2, 3, and that's it. I actually purchased them all at the same time, but I didn't really feel the need to show all of them. But I was just getting into makeup, and I didn't really have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. And at the time, these were the palettes that were popping. So they had this one, the 2, and the 3. And I ended up picking them all up. But I just pulled this one out to show you guys. So this is definitely my first palette. And my oldest palette in general, along with the others. So this is what it looks like on the inside. They don't even make this anymore. It was very dramatic. They had a funeral for it and everything. They came out with a newer Naked palette, and it looked very similar to the Sultry palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. But anyway, this is definitely my oldest palette. The next question says, what is your most expensive palette? So mine is definitely the Natasha Denona Star palette. So this palette retails for like $169, but with tax and everything, I ended up paying $187 for this palette. I bought it when I was in New York with my husband, so the tax was a little bit more than it would usually be. And this is a limited edition palette from Natasha Denona. So it says, but they've had it out forever, so if you still want this, you can get your hands on it. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's more cool toned, and I absolutely love it. And every time I look at it, it reminds me of New York. Even down to the packaging and the colors, I always get a New York vibe from this palette. But definitely this is my most expensive palette that I have in my collection. But I actually do have a lot of her $129 palettes. But this is definitely the most expensive palette in my entire collection. The next part of this says, show your most least expensive palette. So I have 3 here to show. I did have a lot more, but I actually made a big bundle and I sold them all on Facebook because I don't really gravitate towards small drugstore palettes. I tend to reach for my high-end palettes. So these are the ones that I have left and I felt that were worth keeping. And I didn't know out of these 3 palettes that I'm about to show you, I didn't know which one was the least expensive. So I thought I'd just show all of them. So the first one I have here is the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette. And this is the newer formulated version. So this is what it looks like. The difference with this one and the older one is they added these 2 transition shades. And the older one doesn't have that. So these are really affordable, along with this hard candy. This is like their pressed glitters. This is really, really good, especially for the price. This is super affordable, and I actually really do like this. I like how they feel on the eyes. They are glitters. They are very pigmented, and for the price, you can't beat it. And then I also have this little City Mini palette from Maybelline, and this is what it looks like. This one is called Downtown Sunrise. I will go ahead and open this up for you guys. Again, I don't know out of these three like which one is the least expensive, but they all are affordable. And the reason that I actually keep this one, because at one time I had all of these City Mini palettes, almost all of them anyway, and I got rid of them because I wasn't really using them, and I had shadows that I preferred over those. But I keep this one because I actually have a memory with it. When I was dating my husband, well, my husband now, but at the time I was just dating him, and he kept bragging on my eyeshadow, and I thought it was so funny because I was actually using this little Maybelline palette, and I had dipped into most of the shades. It was just really funny to me that he kept bragging on it, and he really did love it. He wanted me to keep wearing that eye look, and it was this. It was Maybelline, so I always keep that just because of him. And it's just a good memory for me. I'll never get rid of it, but definitely these are the three least expensive palettes that I have in my collection. Next, it says to show your everyday palette. So mine is definitely the Tati Beauty palette. So this is what the outer packaging looks like. I know that you guys know about this and you guys have seen this palette, but this is definitely my everyday palette. When I do tend to do eyeshadow, this is the one that I gravitate toward. This is my everyday palette. This is just something that I know is trustworthy. I know it's going to work for me. I don't really have to think about it. It's very easy for me to create looks. Many different formulas in here, and all the formulas to me, in my opinion, are fantastic, and they're definitely worth the hype. This is what you have going on. You can definitely tell that I have used it. The mattes in here just work out so well, and those sequins shades, I know I'm having a hard time saying that, sequins shades that are infused with glitter, they just blend out so easily, and that glitter really does help blend them out. Makes them really smooth. Absolutely gorgeous. This is a beautiful formula, and this is definitely my everyday palette. When I do eyeshadow, I used to do it a lot more often than I do now. I am very creative with my eyeshadow, and I like to just sit down and play. I do have a reason for why I don't do eyeshadow as much as I used to. I don't do it near as much as I used to. I used to do it every single time I done my makeup. And I have a reason for it. I just don't feel comfortable talking about it on camera, at least not right now. But maybe eventually I'll talk about it, but I just don't do it as much as I used to. Another palette I wanted to mention that is a palette, like an everyday palette, is the Norvina palette from Anastasia. Mine is absolutely crushed. It is broken, so I can't really show you guys that well, but this is absolutely amazing. I love the metallic formula in this. They look wet on the eyelids, and the mattes are so pretty, and they just blend out so nice, and the color combination is really nice. I also have a memory with this palette as well. My husband picked this up on his way home from work one day for me, so I always keep it. I always think of that, and it makes me smile. So this is definitely something that I will always keep, even though it's busted up. But I still use this palette. Again, this is one of my everyday palettes along with the Tati Beauty. These are the two that I grab for every time I do my eyeshadow. If you guys can't tell, it was hard for me to pick just like one palette in each category. I actually had multiples in every one, I feel like. So the next part of this says show your most colorful palettes. And I actually have a lot of colorful palettes in my collection. I tend to play with color more often than neutral, so I do have a lot in my collection. And I just thought I'd share a few with you guys really quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these palettes. Just know that I absolutely love them, and they are very colorful. The first one is the Jawbreaker palette from Jeffree Star. I will go ahead and give you guys a quick glance. I know you guys have probably seen this, but this is what it looks like. It's really colorful, really pretty. The formula is fantastic. The next one I have here is the Norvina collection. These are her Pro Pigment palettes. I do have all of them except the newest one that has come out, the fourth one. But the one that I wanted to mention in today's video is the second one, because I feel like this one is the most colorful out of all of them. If you're into really weird, unique colors, like really bright, bold shades, then you will absolutely love this. In my opinion, this is the most colorful out of all of these pigment palettes, so I definitely wanted to give this one a mention. Then I also wanted to talk about my Urban Decay Electric palette. This is a classic, and I will never get rid of this. I can't believe they discontinued this. They did bring out a newer version, the Wired palette. I do have that one as well. I enjoy it. I think it's really pretty. It's more pastel. It doesn't really pack as much of a punch as this one does, but this is what it looks like on the inside. I have got so much use out of this palette, and it definitely is a true colorful palette. These are pressed pigments, absolutely stunning, so I did want to give this one a mention. Along with that, I have my P. Louise. This is called the Secret Center palette. This is very big and bulky packaging, but this is really pretty, and it does have really pretty bright, bold shades in it, so I did want to give this one a mention as well. And then the last one that I wanted to mention in this category is the Be Perfect Cosmetics Carnival palette. Now this is the first one that they released. They do have another version of this. It is actually bigger and it has like 3 highlighters in it, I'm pretty sure, but this is the first version. So this is what it looks like on the inside. The pigmentation on this is absolutely stunning. This is definitely a very pretty, bright, bold palette. So if you're into shades like this, I feel like you won't be disappointed whatsoever. Absolutely stunning, and I had to throw this in with this category. I know it wasn't just one palette in this category, which I don't feel like it is in hardly any of these categories for me, but I just wanted to give them a mention in case you guys are interested in a new colorful palette, or if you guys just want to know my opinion. These are the most colorful palettes I feel like I have in my collection. The next category says show your smallest palettes. So I actually do have a lot of small palettes in my collection, more than I actually thought that I had. I have those little Huda Beauty palettes, like the tiny ones, the little squares. I have some little MAC palettes. My little Maybelline palette was small. I have a little Too Faced palette. Like I'm just naming all these palettes, but out of all of them, I feel like these are definitely the smallest palettes that I have, and these are from Viseart or Viseart. I know people say it different. These are their little petite palettes. Well, this one's number 4 and this one is number 5. I can't really pronounce them. I'm not good at pronouncing stuff, but this is the size of them. This is what they look like. It's honestly, it looks like a little credit card. I at one time was going to get rid of these because I never grabbed for them, but then I thought I can't get what I paid for these. You know, I literally paid $30 a piece for these palettes, which is crazy because look how tiny these are. I'm not saying that these aren't gorgeous like color wise. I just don't get a lot of use out of these. And here's the other one. This is number 5. Very, very tiny, and this is what it looks like on the inside. So these are definitely my smallest palettes in my collection. I could have just picked one, but I thought I'd show you both since I do have them. These were like a little set. I did order these off of Beautylish, I think, from a long time ago, but these are definitely my smallest palettes in my collection. The next category says show your biggest palette that you have in your collection. So I actually have 3 here to talk about. I don't know which one's the biggest. So the first one I have here, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. This is the Morphe and James Charles palette. Everybody knows that this palette is huge. It was so huge and so raved about. Really good formula that they came out with a mini version, but I picked up this one when it first came out. I picked up the big one, and I didn't feel the need to go out and get the mini one because I was like, I already have the big one, and honestly, I'd rather have the big one. I know people hate on like Morphe with their big palettes, but if you're telling me that I can get this one or I can get the mini one, obviously, I feel like I would rather get the big one. So this is the biggest palette that I feel I have in my collection, along with the other 2 that I'm about to show you. I wanted to show you Morphe palettes in general. I just grabbed one, but I have a lot of their bigger palettes as well. Like their, I don't know, how many shades come in these? Does this one literally have like 35 shades? I'm pretty sure it does. But this is what it looks like. This is the 35i Icy Fantasy palette. Just Morphe palettes in this size. I do tend to have a lot of these, and I feel like those are pretty big. And also I wanted to mention the Urban Decay Game of Thrones palette. This is really long, I feel like, and it's also really like chunky. It's really thick and it pulls out, and there is like a lot of like unnecessary wasted packaging, I feel like, but it's really extra. I don't mind it. I feel like it adds to it. I feel like this is a collector's piece, but in my opinion, out of all of my palettes that I have, these are the biggest palettes I feel like I own. And if you haven't been here on my channel, then you should definitely check out my eyeshadow palette collection video, because that is so long. Literally, if you're in the need of like watching videos like that, because I know I watch them all the time, definitely go check that out. You might want to grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever, because it is a very long video, but it literally shows every single eyeshadow palette that I have in my collection. So if you guys want to check that out, it's definitely up here on my channel. But like I said before, these are definitely the biggest palettes that I have here in my collection. The next category says show your palette with the best memories. I actually have 5 here to talk about because I couldn't narrow it down. They all have to do with my husband. So the first one that I have here is actually a good memory for me, because not only did my husband buy this palette for me when we were just dating, he was working at Walmart, and you know, he went and he picked this palette up for me, but I was also working at Ulta, and I hadn't been working there that long. So this is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. This was just such a fun time in my life at that point, because I was working at Ulta. It was around Christmas time, because that's when all the holiday makeup releases was there, and that's when I had got on at Ulta, and I feel like that's just one of the best times in the makeup community. That's when all the holiday releases are out and people are getting really excited. So this is what he ended up picking up for me. Again, he worked at Walmart. This was the first makeup item that he had ever bought for me, and this is what it looks like, and I've got so much use out of this palette. Not because he bought it for me, but honestly, this is one of the best Too Faced palettes that I have ever used. These metallics look so pretty on the lids, and the matte shades are perfect. You have everything that you need. So I like to use this as a little transition. This is a transition. I deepen it up with this black, and then I can literally go in with any one of these metallic shades, and it looks absolutely stunning. I've got so much use out of this palette. I have made so many pretty looks with this palette. I will never get rid of it because it just has a lot of meaning. It has a lot of memories to it. Working at Ulta, my husband bought it around Christmas time. It's just perfect. I love it, and I still use this palette to this day. I think it's amazing, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. I'm pretty sure you can still get this palette. The next palette I have here is a limited edition palette, but it has so much meaning to me as well. Well, at the time we were dating, and he just slipped me $100 bill, and he's like, you know, whatever you need, gas, whatever. And I used some of it for gas, but I ended up going and picking up the Clover palette from Too Faced. So this is what the packaging looks like. This came out around the same time as the Chocolate Gold. I was actually working at Ulta when I picked this one up as well. Absolutely stunning. I have done so many looks with this palette, and I love the formula in this palette. I wish that it wasn't limited edition. You have some really pretty like pops of color in here, and I can just do so much with this palette. I think the color combination is very unique. It's very different. It's very pretty. You can't get this palette anymore, but this is something that I wish that they had kept around. I wish this wasn't like limited edition. So really, really pretty. It has so much meaning to me. Again, working at Ulta around Christmas, my husband, I don't think at that time he knew I was going to buy a palette, but he knows me now, so. The next palettes I have here to talk about are also just special. They have a lot of meaning to them. So this is the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. So I'm going to talk about this in another category. So I'm going to put this to the side after I'm done talking about it. But I actually used this on my wedding day. So I used one of the metallics in here because I love this formula. They look wet on the lids, and I just feel like this is a palette that just every time it never let me down. It's one of my favorites, and I still grab for it. And again, I wish this wasn't limited edition. I feel like this is one of Tarte's best palettes. But also along with that, I also used the Jaclyn Hill palette. So this one has a lot of meaning to me as well because I also use this on my wedding day. You can see that this has been beat to death. I have used this so many times. I do have the original Jaclyn Hill formula when it first came out, so I do have a good formula. Again, I use this palette along with the Tarte palette on my wedding day for my eye look, and it came out so nice, these two paired together. Also, why these palettes hold a very special memory is because I use these all the time when I worked at Ulta as well. I use this palette with this palette all the time. So again, I feel like these all have the same type of like memory, like meaning to them because I was working at Ulta. My husband either bought it for me or I wore it around him or something like that. But these are definitely special to me as well because again, I did wear these on my wedding. And the last palette that I have here to talk about in this category of it just being like special is the Urban Decay Heavy Metals palette. Now the reason that this is like so special to me is because I was just getting hired on at Ulta. But not only that, I use it so much when I worked at Ulta. I like to use this palette. You have a side of pretty metallics that are colorful, and you have a side of metallics that are all neutral. I like to use this palette in conjunction with the Jaclyn Hill palette. I use it all the time, honestly. And I used it when I was working there, and I used it when I was dating my husband. This was one of my go-to palettes during that time frame of dating my husband along with the Jaclyn Hill. Again, when I worked at Ulta, I used it. I just feel like they paired so well together. And these palettes that I'm saying are so meaningful was like my go-to palettes when I was working at Ulta and I was dating my husband. So that was just, I don't know, that was just a really good time for me. So that is why all of these are so special to me. I'm going to speed through this one really fast, but it says, show your favorite palette from your favorite brands. My favorite brand, honestly, is NARS. Anything that NARS releases, I tend to love, especially when it comes to their eyeshadow palettes and their blush palettes. But in this category, I wanted to do something different because when it comes to NARS and their palettes, I honestly can't choose. Like, I love them all. So I wanted to talk about Anastasia with this, and I also wanted to bring up the palette that I had mentioned before. This is the Norvina palette. So this is the one that is my favorite from my favorite brand. There's not really much more to say about this. If you've been here on my channel for a while, then you know why I love this. The metallics are so like blinding, and the mattes blend out so well, and the color combination is really unique. I feel like it just makes really pretty, elegant looks. So this is definitely my favorite from my favorite brand, but you know what I mean. Like, it's one of my favorite brands, but my favorite brand is definitely NARS. I just can't pick with NARS. The next category says, show a palette worth the hype. I wanted to bring up the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself. This is the one that holds a special memory that I just talked about. But this is so worth the hype. I feel like it actually did not get enough hype. This is one of the best Tarte palettes, and when I see people talk about this, they end up decluttering it, and I just don't understand. The metallics in here are wet. The colors are so pretty. This is a really pretty spring and summer palette. This is one of Tarte's best. I said that before. I just don't understand. I feel like this deserved more hype, and I feel like this was worth the hype that it did get, but it definitely did deserve more hype. And I think I answered all of these questions. I feel like this is the last question. I hope so anyway. I hope I'm not missing one. But the last category or question, whatever you want to call it, says show a palette that wasn't worth the hype in your opinion. This one was not worth the hype in my opinion. This is the Amrezy palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Now the packaging on this palette is absolutely stunning, don't get me wrong, but the formula in this palette was not my favorite from Anastasia. This was nothing like the Norvina palette in my opinion, but this is what you have going on the inside. The mattes feel different to me. The only color that I'm obsessed with in here is called Barb, and the other one is called Anastasia, and this is what they look like. These are absolutely stunning. I hope I can show you guys. I don't think you guys are going to be able to see, but these are absolutely stunning. But the palette was not worth getting for just 2 shades. Look at that, so pretty. This formula just wasn't it for me. I feel like it was definitely overhyped, and it was just because it was Amrezy and stuff, which I understand. I love Amrezy, but this palette just wasn't it for me, and it was definitely overhyped. But other than that, that was everything. That was all the questions / categories in this tag. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and liking and commenting. It honestly means the world, and don't think that you go unnoticed, because I truly see you and I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. But before you go, I tag you guys. Either make a video or leave your answers down in the comments below and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about my answers, and also leave your answers down in the comments below. I would love to read them. I'd love to see what you guys think. But other than that, thank you guys so much for being here and watching. And before you go, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell below so you're notified every time I upload a video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.